War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.
It's obvious that they have an agenda that does not line up with what the people want, what a normal civilized society wants. We want law and order. That's what we want. And when we send our wives to the grocery store, we don't want to be worried about, if she's going to be involved with some active shooter or something like that. This is not what we signed up for. We back the blue, but good, responsible policing and officers that want to enforce the law according to the Georgia Constitution. Not all this woke stuff. Bumped into a officer yesterday in the county. And, he kind I always greet him and tell him we appreciate them basically putting their lives on the line to protect the citizens of Gwinnett County. I'm sure it's a tough job, and there are some good officers. But there are some that are towing the line that's catering and caving to, in my opinion, the leadership that doesn't want to go after illegal immigration. Why wouldn't you want to enforce the law to protect the citizens? Look at what's going on at the border. When you don't have law and order and people to enforce the rules, you have chaos. We don't need all these bureaucratic safe havens in place for people that are not abiding by the rules. There's natural law and regular law. Natural law, that there's things in place that the Creator, that God in heaven put in place that were consequences to our actions. Either we're going to obey the law as it's written, or we're not. And we're going to watch society around us collapse. Thank you for tuning in to War Room, Gwinnett County. I'm your host, Antonio Jones. A lot going on. Shout out to all the people that I've been running to at the gas station, the grocery stores, that I've met in different neighborhoods. We've been sitting down having some serious conversations. And to be honest, there's been a lot of concern about the way and the direction that the county is going. A lot of them don't agree with some of the stuff that they're seeing. Kids are going absolutely haywire in schools. Crime is up. I started to pull up quite a few articles on the things that are going on, but it's quite obvious if you just turn the news on what's going on. Just a little bit of housekeeping. For those that's the first time you're watching the War Room, Gwinnett County, this show is basically here to break down some areas that we need to focus on to keep society civil. We all want safe schools, safe communities, and we want to be able to thrive. 5 areas, and I call these the Fab 5 areas that we got to focus on, which is the Achilles tendon for a county. You got the county commission, you got your city council, you got the school board, you got the district attorney's office, and you got the sheriff. If these 5 things slip, then everything else goes downhill. And what's downstream of that is our home values. And a lot of us, it's just part of the American dream to own a home, be able to live in a society where, everybody has the opportunity to thrive. So today, we're going to bring on one of the candidates for sheriff right here in Gwinnett County. His name is Joe Mark. Joe, welcome to the show. Excited about having you on. Can you tell the people a little bit about your platform?
Yeah. Hey, Antonio, thanks for having me. Elementary school over at Gwynn Oaks, and then redistricted Cedar Hill.
Hold on a second, Joe. I think your camera might have froze. We might have to get you to reboot and jump back in here. So if you'll do that and just sign back on, then we'll pull you right back up. So as I was saying, I run into a lot of people here in the county, and people have a lot of concern just about what they're seeing. We have a district attorney's office that is having a failed rate of prosecutions. Prosecutions are reported by WSB at like 57%. The surrounding counties is like 80-something%, and north of that. I don't know how that's gonna play into the confidence value of different officers that are working here. I just don't really know how that's gonna play out. They're going out here risking their lives every day, arresting people, and there's not going to be any prosecution. I think we got Joe back. Let me bring him in. And Joe, I don't know if you heard everything that I just said, but basically we have a district attorney's office, and we'll go back to your platform and where you decided to run. But I wanted to bring you in on the heels of those remarks. So if we have a sheriff's office batting below, just above 50%, I don't know how that's going to affect the morals of the officers in the department. What say you on that?
Well, that's got to be incredibly defeating. Incredibly defeating. Imagine, going to work every single day, and your whole purpose, right, is to protect and serve the citizens of the county. And then you go out, not only risk your life, right, but you got friends and family that are risking their lives. Because when you join a small police department or a unit, right, you become a cohesive unit. So you guys care about each other. Now imagine going to work every single day for nothing. You go, risk your life, make an arrest, maybe save somebody's life or whatever. The person goes through the process, and then they just let them out on their own regards, or they get out with bond, which is the normal process. But that's got to be difficult from a conviction standpoint to go through, put the time in. Now I can see if the officer, he or she, has sloppy report writing, or they don't investigate, properly, right? Then they failed at doing their part of the job. But I can't imagine the feeling of having that happen to you, just time after time after time. I don't know.
Yeah. So I know that we have different agencies within government that are supposed to work hand in hand with each other. What I see a lot of, and this is all the way up to the top into Washington, is a lot of times it's, I guess, not etiquette to speak out against or make a comment or a statement about things like that, because being a sheriff, you're responsible for a lot of men and women that, like you said, put in a lot of hard work. Nobody thinks about the wives and how they feel every day as that husband walks out of the door, not knowing if he's going to return, or a wife that's going to return. And then they put in all this work, and the conviction rate is way down. That's going to affect the whole moral value of everything that's going on. So we got to make sure that we switch that up, because we got to back the blue. Everybody that I meet, we got to get in back of those guys, those men and women who are putting their lives on the line every day.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more.
So let's rewind. We had a couple technical difficulties. We appreciate everybody staying locked in. If you're watching this live, make sure you share it, like and subscribe, because we got to get the word out. So the War Room is a platform for people can come and get the information. We digest it, kind of prepare it for you, provide receipts, and we put a little bit of our opinion in it. And we let you make the decision on what direction you want to go in as far as who you're going to support. So, yesterday I was thinking while I was working, and because we haven't really got into quote unquote endorsing candidates, but I think one thing we could do is I came up with something called War Ready. So we'll make it like a War Ready rating or whatever, and we'll let the people that are on the platform come on and give their input. And if you like the candidate, make sure you support them. Share their content, their information, and hop on there. Give them $5-10 if you got it. Donate to their campaign if you feel compelled to do so. So, can you tell us a little bit about your platform and your background for the people, so they can become a little bit more aware, and why you decided to run for sheriff in Gwinnett County?
Well, that's all great questions. Let me start off with my background. I've got just that 25 years of, military police, military, and then private sector experience, private sector, including owning, businesses. I've owned a couple of businesses in the past. One of them I sold successfully. So that was pretty exciting. And a lot of that is on the private side is going to be under the investigations, executive protection work. Training is a huge part of our company. My business partner is on an airplane right now, coming back from Lebanon. He's returning from a counterterrorism delivery with the State Department. So he was over in Lebanon training some special operations soldiers for that country. There's an opportunity coming up for some of us to send some guys over to the Philippines towards the end of the year. So training is big. And that is how I really came to know a lot of the men and women of both the Sheriff's Department, the Gwinnett County Police Department, the municipal agencies. So
you're basically plugged in, know a few people, and been in and around the culture of times in, a lot of different organizations. We go in, and I'm not saying that this is the case. That's why I'm asking the question. There are people in there that we know or whatever been knowing for a long time. So when something or that person may be kind of going out of bounds, it may make it a little bit more hairy or difficult to say, hey man, you're gonna have to straighten it up. I'll give you an example. I was down at Hilltop Pond. Shout out to John down there, some great guys, right up here on 78, up here in Snellville. And there was a gentleman in there, and he knew the sheriff that's in office right now. So so I told him I got a couple guys that's coming on the show. Told him about the show and everything, and told him I was going to be interviewing. And I said, he was like, well, why don't you ask the current sheriff to come in? And so I was saying, well, have you talked to or heard of any of the other guys that are running? I think that, they got some decent platforms and everything they're running on. So he was like, well, I went to training or something with the current sheriff. And I'm thinking in my head, and I should have said it, but I ain't, maybe I should have went on and busted him out. I was like, so you're going to let the fact that you know somebody overrule how well of a job they do. That's the problem that we're having, because we always want to be in a position to where the best person is in there. And if this your partner and your buddy or whatever the case may be, we should be pushing that person that much harder to straighten up. And out of respect and regard for you supporting that person, they should be willing to get on their horse and do the right thing.
Let me tell you, Antonio, a little bit on that. So I know Kibo. I'm going to tell you straight up, I voted for him. I mean, there's no secret. Anybody can go and pull open record requests and look how people vote. So I'm a big proponent of fact checking, doing your own homework, right? Don't take my word for it. Don't take so-and-so's word for it. You know what I'm saying? Go and look it up. The point I'm trying to make is I've done work for Kibo personally. So he's come in as a customer from one of my businesses. We perform work for him. I've trained his family. His son owns one of the businesses next door to me. So I know those people, and I mean, you're right. Look, business is business. It's not personal, right? If you go to work every day and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, what's going to happen, right? You're going to get written up. You're going to, eventually lose your job. I mean, I have no personal issues with Kibo or Cleo or any of those command staff members, Melody Jones. I don't know hardly any of those people from Adam. All I can say is that, 2 + 2 will always be 4, right? We can't deny that. And right now, the sheriff's department is a dumpster fire going down the Chattahoochee River. Plain and simple. That has nothing to do with anybody personally. It just means that they're not doing the job. And we should hold themselves accountable. And if I get elected and I'm not doing the job, I expect to be the one on the receiving end. It's fair, right? That's what we do.
Absolutely. All right. So moving on to a question, and I see some people in the comment section on Facebook. Again, if you're watching, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the page. Anybody that's just tuning in, War Room Gwinnett County. This is the people. This is the public square for the people of Gwinnett. This is not just for politicians or people that's running for office to come on. We can have everyday people come on. It has been you that has sent in different links and everything to keep us up on what's going on. This is the people's voice. So we encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate everybody that's been supporting the War Room this far. So, all right. So 80,000 kids, north of 80,000 kids have come up missing that have come across the border. The United States is the largest consumer in the world of buying kids for, sexual reasons, which is very sad. So one of the questions that I got from the audience was, 287G. And I know the federal government has to support this. Would you be willing to reinstate 287G and work with the government to make sure that there are no people in the communities that have come here illegally and that are causing problems? This is not saying that you would have some type of, of task force that's going out, looking for people. But if somebody's getting in trouble, that is the precursor to look further, because I guess when you come in and you get booked, naturally they probably look and say, hey, had this woman or this guy gotten in any other trouble? So, I guess while we're at it, I think it would be a good idea to take a check to see. But what say you? 287G, people want to know, would you support it in conjunction with the federal government if that's something that they would want to do based on what we see happening at the border?
So 287G has always been a bone of contention for everybody, right? There's a group of individuals that think that means that the police department or the sheriff's department is going to come round up people and extradite them back to their country for whatever. I don't know if do I need 287G? If somebody's committing a crime in their community, they're preying on their community, and they've got warrants for somewhere else or on ICE, do I need 287G to get them out? I don't think I do. We'll find out. But there's a commitment that's in place. That's a commitment that I need to figure out. There's a manpower commitment. There's a financial commitment. Right now, the jail is tremendously understaffed. Is that important, 287G? Yeah, we need to take a look at it. I need to understand the program, the real program, not what rumors are. I'd like to talk to the Department of Homeland Security. I want to talk to immigration attorneys. I want to hear both sides of the aisle, and then we will make an educated decision about whether or not 287G is for Gwinnett County or not. I know that there's only 4 counties in the entire state, I believe, that are doing 287G. So it's not a very popular program. And if you want to look at the argument for one side or the other, we need to figure out, out of 159 counties, why are there only 4 counties participating in this program?
Right. So
those are things I'd like to know.
Right. So my question is this, and it's good to know what the other counties are doing. But according to the Constitution and the United States Constitution, we're supposed to protect the citizens and the borders. So, I mean, I know it's not a popular thing to do or be involved in, but shouldn't we follow those constitutions to the letter of the law? And I know that there has to be a support infrastructure there, as well from the federal government is my understanding. So my question would be, why not, if someone's getting in trouble, maybe everybody that comes in, we need to find out, are you here legally? Just like if you were on a plane, the first thing they're going to do is say, hey, let's ID this person. Where did you buy a ticket? Where did you buy the ticket from? And at least have a data point to be able to present to see what needs to be done next. So let's go to let's pull a question off of the stream. Let's see here. There are some people logged on. Let's see.
Let me answer your question before we move on, so it doesn't look like I ducked.
Okay, so we get we'll make sure you have got clarity to that.
I am still actively researching the pros and cons of it. I haven't made my decision up one way or another. What I will tell you is that I will swear an oath to defend the Constitution of Georgia and the United States again, and uphold those laws, right? I can't pick and choose which ones I want to follow and what I don't. But there's another side that says, you have officer discretion, right? Police officers still have discretion. So what I can tell you is that we will look at every single case fairly, and I will do my due diligence. I promise you, I will look into both sides of 287G, and I will make an educated decision with my staff on whether or not it's right for Gwinnett County. What I can tell you definitively is that we will not tolerate crime in Gwinnett, right? If you're going to come into Gwinnett County from other areas, I don't care where it is, or even in Gwinnett County, there is a way to be proactive in law enforcement and enforcing crime without being oppressive, right? We do that with gathering street level actionable intelligence, and we'll get into the minutiae later. But I can tell you that we can do that without being oppressive. So I will do my due diligence and get back to you.
Okay, so we'll hold on to that one until we let you iron it out a little bit more. All right, so this was another question from some of the people. So what areas do you see as areas that need to be improved as far as in the in the sheriff's capacity? Just
first and foremost, jail, right? The sheriff has constitutional obligations, right? I guess technically when I'm elected, you're considered the chief law enforcement officer of the county, right? But my main job is not to drive around or have my deputies ride around patrol cars and do, holiday task force and other things like that. That's not my responsibility. My job is to support the municipalities with either money or manpower or so forth. But I need to focus on the jail. Number one priority is the jail and the men and women of the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Department. Plain and simple. The detainees will also be a direct result of that attention and those modifications. I said it earlier, there's a humanitarian crisis in the jail. I mean that literally. It sounds dramatic, I get it, but how else would you describe? I'll give you an example. Let's say that you have a mental issue, right? You're not mentally stable, you got an illness, and you end up having an interaction with law enforcement. You find yourself in the Gwinnett County Jail. They have determined that you are what's called like 24 ISO, right? So you do not play nice with others. You don't play nice with the police, and you have the potential to be harmful to yourself. Well, what do they do with you? They have to put you in a special room. There's protocol in place. to where they have to have, I believe, a minimum of two deputies, right, to bring you in and out of the cell. But what happens if there's not two deputies on shift to bring you in and out of the cell to abide with that regulation? What do you do? Well, I can tell you what they have been doing is they've been leaving these individuals in their cells for prolonged periods of time, one of which specifically was covered in feces for up to 5 days. Now, this is the United States of America, right? I served in combat and captured enemy prisoners of war a lot in different countries, and we didn't treat those people like that. And some of them were accused of genocide, right? In Bosnia, when we went and did some stuff over there, I was part of a team that was working a security job, like we were protective service, but we were going, and while the political advisor was basically negotiating the surrender of like tier 2 and tier 3 persons that were questioned for war crimes, right? So we would go and make sure that was happening. We would capture some of those guys, right, to bring them to The Hague or wherever. And we didn't treat those people like that. And those people killed babies and women and dumped their bodies in the Drina River. So let me tell you, there's a problem. There's a problem going on. It's wrong. Plain and simple, it's wrong.
So what do you think the baseline of that is? Do you think it's a funding problem, or 'cause that was one of the questions. So I guess we'll get on to that question after this one. So the humanitarian is one issue, and what any more that you can pull down just off of first glance as far as.
Sorry, say that part again.
I said what any other issues that you can think of right off top first glance?
Retention.
Just from your.
So
Okay.
retention. So the big thing in the county, I'd say the biggest like problem that everybody's got, right? So Gwinnett gives good training, right? They've always had good training. Gwinnett County was like the shining star with the police department, the sheriff's department. People used to come from all over the world to see what Gwinnett does, right? So you're going to invest all this money, give them all these excellent training, but there's nothing keeping them here, right? So
Yeah.
the pension went away. The pension's a huge thing, and it can be brought back. I know it can be brought
I was gonna ask what's the problem with bringing back the pension? It seems like it's a lot of money
It is.
flying around, so why can't we get the pension back
Everything that I'm
for
being
these
told.
officers?
Everything I'm being told, we can bring it back. It's going to be complicated, and it is expensive, and there's a lot of logistics involved in it. But what are you doing? What else you got to do? That's your job. Like when I go in and talk to these people, right, and I see my staff or whomever's involved with it, they say, "Well, it's difficult. It's too hard." You got something else you got to do? I mean, let's figure it out, right? And then let's present it. And it's the right thing to do. Doing the right thing, obviously, you've heard that time and time again. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy.
No. That-
Cherokee's got a pension. The pension's possible. So
Right.
we're gonna figure it out. Get the pension.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of tough decisions moving forward. That's just where we are as a county and a lot of cities, and quite frankly, as a nation. There are going to be some difficult decisions. You may be the guy that's going in there that's going to push the envelope. I'll never forget when I first went to college at Tennessee State. When we got there, we got a brand new coach. He recruited the incoming freshman class, and he redshirted us all because his contract was for 5 years. So he wanted to make sure the crop he brought in, he had an opportunity to live out his contract with the people that he brought in. And every day it was a fight for him. I mean, the team was looking raggedy. He had to fight us too. Guys weren't going to class, all kinds of stuff. He would have guys going, checking every morning to see if we was on time, and we had to be there 15 minutes early.
Mhm.
If you got there on time, you was late. That was one of the things he said. But he did what it took to turn it around. I personally believe in Gwinnett. I wouldn't even be involving myself with this war room, because only thing you can be promised is a bunch of persecution when you're trying to help get the truth out.
Right.
So, it's going to be a lot of difficult decisions that are going to be, for anybody that's getting in public office that's trying to do the right thing. So we just want to get some people in there that what we would consider war ready. And that means ready to fight, fight from every legal aspect that we have to for the betterment of the county.
That's why I feel like I can lead this department in the right direction, right? So I don't have 30 years of policing the streets of Gwinnett County. I don't have 30 years of being a police officer, right? I was a police officer long enough to understand the fundamentals of it, right? Not to mention police and sheriff is two totally different law enforcement, right? I mean, being a road officer responding for calls of service is completely different than being a jail deputy or working warrants or fugitives or something like that. I've served warrants.
Right. But would you agree that all of these things work together in tandem?
They do. And the fact that I don't have that 30 years, I think is advantageous because I don't have to go in there and repay favors or put my friends in places, right? I can honestly, I'm in a position to where I can really put the right individual in the right spot to do the right thing, right? I'm in a very, very unique position. I don't know any other candidate that's in the same position that I am that knows enough about the organization. I know a tremendous amount of people within all of those organizations. From some of them have a lot of rank. Some of them are in command staff positions. I'm going to be candid with you. And I've had a non-biased observation of how things work. So I can tell you that I will get the job done and we will start supporting our deputies. I mean, there's a vacuum of leadership for whatever reason. There's a lot of people that have retired recently that have been vocal on the internet. You guys can go out and find those people and have them tell their stories and get their viewpoint on it. Because I don't know. I can't relate to what's.
Yeah. Well, we have people, law enforcement, all kinds of people contacting us. Some of them, a lot of them want to remain anonymous for obvious reasons. But
yeah, because they're scared of retaliation.
Right.
I mean, you ever heard of failure to support? That's a real thing. You should look into that. If you voice your opinion against the sheriff's department or you voice your opinion against your command staff, they charge you with some kind of a failure to support thing, and you're up in IA. I don't even think they call it IA. What is it? PSU? You're up in PSU having to explain stuff and take lie detector tests about who you talked to, who you didn't. I mean,
wow.
Really?
And see, that within itself is not constitutional. I mean,
No.
You have right to free speech, and that's one of the things we talk to teachers about, because
Right.
a lot of them was afraid to come forward and say what's going on. All of these things work together. I mean, the city, like all the things that I named out, nothing is a lot of this stuff is on paper, different agencies and stuff like that, but none of it's compartmentalized. This stuff has to work together. When the kids are going crazy in schools and bringing guns and all of this stuff, this is county property. You know what I'm saying? And I know that, they have SROs and things like this, but some of this behavior, those kids have to graduate. Those kids are not at school 24 hours a day. They go to the grocery stores. They do, they're in the community. So now whose responsibility is? Now the police officers got to deal with it. So it would behoove the different agencies to come together on some levels and have these conversations and stand in unity and let criminals know, look, we're not going to have it up in Gwinnett County. We're not going to let this place turn into Atlanta. There's some people that want to turn it into this for other reasons, high turnover, get more profit, people in, people out, all these small neighborhoods and all this other stuff. This stuff is important. I spoke with a council person, and I asked them, because I'm on a planning commission, and I was like, all this small developments and stuff like that, smashing people in, matchbox houses and all that kind of stuff. Why are we not building something of more quality? Well, they said, well, hey, when the school fails, everything behind it goes downhill. And then you have people start moving. There is a very simple fix for this. Law and order.
Agreed.
That's the fix for it.
Agreed.
Period. Now, the parents, they're the first line of defense because all of us, we control our properties and where we live and how our children behave, what they do when they go to school. We should be responsible for those things. Now, the second line of defense when they go to school should be good policies in school. Hey, these discipline policies in Gwinnett County are a joke. They're a joke, and they're causing strain and stress on the police agencies, in my opinion, as they grow and develop. But if you're teaching them, they got 100 chances. A kid got caught with a gun or whatever. A bus driver was telling me this kid's back in the school a couple of days later. What is that saying to law enforcement? The county commission should be disgusted by this, because guess what? They're spending our tax money in these different agencies. So they should have solid policies for the betterment of Gwinnett County. Then the tax mill can go up. People are usually willing to pay a little bit more for something that they want. But we're getting charged out of the yin yang. And a lot of this leadership, in my opinion, is completely feckless. Completely feckless. And, I ain't mean to go off on a tangent just now, but it is what it is. I'm out here talking to people that work every single day that love Gwinnett County. You say, hey, you grew up here. Well, to you, I'm a newcomer. I've been here, maybe me and my wife been here maybe about 10 years, a little bit over 10 years. But Gwinnett was the place to be. And it still can be if we get some people in leadership that want to enforce the law, period. People will do whatever you let them do. There has to be a line. In a lot of these cases, Joe, they think that we should remove the law because people don't want to obey it. So I guess we need to pull up every single stop sign at every corner, remove every traffic light. Because people don't want to stop. No, that's crap. We need people in these offices who are going to execute their position faithfully. That's what we need here in Gwinnett County. So let me get on to the next question. I'm getting a little hot under the collar.
All right.
But thank you for that. Yeah, I mean that's where it begins at. We got kids. A lot of the guys that I spoke to in different neighborhoods over the last 4 or 5 weeks, they're concerned about what's going on. They want safety. They want law and order. They don't want diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of this nonsense. And we having and just on another level, we having a pride parade with the county commission signing some type of paperwork. What a joke. And I'm not saying, look, well, somebody decides what they want to do and who they want to be with or whatever. That's their business. But here's the bottom line. There's too much information coming out that's associated with this particular community, and we're going to have a party behind that. What's that saying to the people in Gwinnett? Why do we got to have a special, nothing about that says family. This society was built on family. Everywhere there's family, there is success, period. We don't need to cater to certain things, and then the president has that party on the White House lawn. What a disgrace. It's disgraceful. That type of lewd behavior in public. That's what's attached to this. This is what we spending our time on. Oh, Nicole's great. She does this, she does that. Anyway, let me move. What we need to be doing is making sure the police have what they need, making sure that these teachers have what they need in these schools, and these SROs can do their jobs. And teachers are not getting fired for breaking up fights. That's what we need to be focusing on. Yeah. This is garbage. This
A
is
teacher
garbage.
got fired for breaking up a fight.
This is what some of our sources say.
Oh,
The teachers that are proactive, that are trying to do the right thing, is catching the most flack. And you know who's suffering? Minorities and the whole community. The very people that they sit up on there in that school board every time and say, you know, we want to have, diversity and all this other stuff. Well, guess what? I got a group of fathers that I've all personally talked to and that you're going to hear from soon. It's all crap. They don't want it. You don't represent them. You don't represent us. Equality, not equity. That's what Dr. King was about. We don't need it in policing. We don't need it in the school board. We don't need some pride, whatever the district attorney. I can't even remember what it is, but she got some commit for what? Why? You know, what's next? Drag queen parades and stuff? Come on. We don't need the depravity. We need law and order. All right, let me get to a question. Excuse the rant. Okay, so we got that. I want to make sure we get the questions from the people because I wrote down a few. Oh, so you already said something about the private. I mean, you pretty sharp today, dude. I don't know. You might want to keep that private bathroom if you get elected. You know, maybe put a makeup counter or something in there. Make sure your TV. Make sure you're ready for the TV. So yeah, that was a real question. I mean, somebody wanted to know, would you convert that back into an office because they said the space there was limited. I don't know if they've made any changes.
I'd have to see what it's like. I heard that he closed off the entire upstairs. So, you know, when you go up on the elevator, you go to the warrants section, there's like a window there and there's a double door. They used to all be open. And you'd go in, there'd be a bullpen in the back over there. The warrants guys and the fugitive guys would be over there, and then there'd be a hallway that walk down. I've been told that that's all closed up now. I don't know. I'll just have to get in there and see what's going on. And there's so many other things, honestly, that really need the attention. We gotta look at the big picture, but also make sure that we prioritize. It's all important. It's all important.
Yeah. So let me ask you this real quick, since on the heels of my comment about the schools. So this is a question I had. What effect does the weak disciplinary policy in schools and the parents that are not raising the kids to respect authority and obey the law have on crime in the county? And in the role of sheriff, how do you send a message that crime and criminal activity won't be tolerated?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I'm glad that was asked. I'm going to tell you straight up, and people that know me well know they know I pick and choose my words very carefully because I when I say something, I mean it. And I got to tell you that we are not going to tolerate the crime in Gwinnett County. I can tell you that straight up. I've already met with a majority of the chiefs of police. I've put some requests to meet with the remainder chiefs out. We'll see. I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple. Not because I want an endorsement, not because I want somebody on my side. I need to understand, right? To do this job effectively, I need to understand what's going on, right? From the top down. I've been on ride-alongs recently. I've been riding around with the officers, getting their viewpoint. I want to see the atmosphere of the citizens of Gwinnett when that's important, right? The cities are growing at a record pace. I heard that Peachtree Corners now, I think, is trying to start a police department. We'll have to see what goes on with that. But I got to tell you that I've met with all the chiefs pretty much, and I got to tell you we're all on the same sheet of music. We're gonna take care of this crime. I know how to get it done effectively and quietly, because we don't want mess in the streets. We don't want citizens to be disturbed. We don't need, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's tactics and things that we can do to eradicate crime or deter people from committing crimes in Gwinnett County. You make an example out of a couple people, and they'll start realizing. They'll just move on to other areas, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the abridged version. But I can tell you, Gwinnett ain't gonna be the place. I promise you. I promise you.
Hey, that sounds like you got it together. So let me ask you this. This has been a lot of building and construction, and people moving into the county. So how does the force deal with that? I mean, do we need budget for more officers? I know there's a retention problem. A lot of people have expressed their concerns with that. As far as expanding to get, I guess, more officers, is it an officer per 1,000 people? How does that work? Because I personally don't have a clue, and I'm pretty sure people want to know the answer to that.
I also don't really know much about that. I'm not like task force and crime and stuff, which leads me to another aspect. With duplication of services, you got the jail screaming for help, and then you've got like mental health task force and community outreach. And again, not to take away from the good that those groups are doing, but we have to prioritize. When you get in a tough situation, right? Somebody loses their job, right? And you have to like make cutbacks at your house, right? Everything at your house is important, but before you lose the roof over your head, you may cut off the power. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So you have to make tough decisions, right? It's not ideal, but you don't need all these task force running around. It's not that important. What's important is the jail and the courts. You need to focus on your priorities and big time stay in your lane. You know what I'm saying? Let the police do police stuff. I think it's 2.5 officers per 1,000 citizens in Gwinnett County, I believe is what it is.
Okay.
Somebody just sent me that information.
Okay.
2.5 officers.
2.5 officers. I
For 1,000.
We need to get those pensions back. Oh, and I heard that the qualifications have been lowered for officers as far as the mile rate. We need we need to make sure that we getting the best that we can get, and that we challenge people. We don't, when people go in the NFL and the NBA, they don't lower the goal, or they don't mean to widen the goalpost, things or whatever. They're gonna remain the same. So we just got to push for to make the right offers to these officers, and let the morale be where it needs to be, and all of that comes with from good leadership.
Those are all goals of mine, I assure you. Let me ask you this, right? Do you know the starting salary for a deputy sheriff or an officer, a police officer? Starting salary in the year 2023. It is, as of 16 April of 2022, it was $42,888. $42,888 starting salary. That is very, very difficult, I would imagine, to have a quality of life, right?
Yeah.
So now you've got that. Now you've got no support from your leadership, or little support. You're overworked. You have mandatory overtime. All of those things affect your family, your mental health, right? There's no incentive to do this job. You're getting horrible pay in horrible conditions, and you're constantly being harassed by the citizens and or your own command staff, right? Giving you a hard time. It's just a I don't know how they got the people that they got, to be quite honest with you. So again, the priority of my administration will be to right a lot of these wrongs. We're going to take care of the people that take care of us, right? And the ones that are a cancer, they're going to have to go. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to go. We're gonna breed, attitude and culture that stems from the top down, right? If you have a toxic environment, you know what I'm saying? You got to look at your leadership, or lack of that thereof, and see, what's going on. Has this, I like to lead from the front. I want to understand how things are going. So that includes me working a jail pod, or going down to civil, seeing what they do down at civil, or standing in a courtroom, right? How do you effectively lead an organization that you don't know what the heck's going on, right? As far as I'm concerned, Kibo and Cleo and all those guys, they're in the same boat that I am, right? So they worked as a police officer. Kibo was retired 11 years before he took over. How do you lead a sheriff's department if you've never been in the daggone pods? If you've never worked a shift or talked to the people that you're down there supposedly leading, how do you effectively run an organization like that? I want an answer. I want somebody to answer that question to me. Like, do you think you're doing a good job? Do you think that you've got your people's best attention at heart? I mean, that's a legitimate question. I'm a taxpayer.
Yeah. Wow. So let me see. Let me jump over here. I think you've answered a few questions that people had already. Let's see here. Someone said they agree we still have time to save Gwinnett. The time is running low, running out. They have 3 kids in public schools, and they've decided to stay until the next election. There are a lot of us that really believe in Gwinnett. I mean, we got to get some good, solid leadership that care and that are going to do the things, some of the things that you mentioned, as for leading from a front. Getting down there, getting in the dirt with everybody.
You have to.
Seeing what it's like. I mean, that's the only way you can effectively lead. That's with anything. You have to understand. It's like, even here at the house. My wife does a tremendous amount of things for us. I mean, it ain't something I would want to do all day, every day with kids.
Right.
But sometimes I'll just say, I'll come home after work. She don't ask me to, but I'll say, hey, let me wash the dishes. Or, hey, when I'm off, just take off. Just leave me and the kids. Just go. Let me worry about getting everybody together, because we got small children. But just to be able to see what she's experiencing in her capacity is important. So what you mentioning that is really key, and it will boost morale. I run a landscaping company here, and I had a guy that went and helped me a little while last year, and I let him ride the lawnmower 90% of the time. Nobody really does that, but I wanted to show him that, hey, if you ever end up running a company or running a truck for me, you have to be willing to get down and do some of the hard work just to help the next guy get his morale boosted. And then it'll be his turn, and then his turn. You know what I'm saying? So that what you said is spot on. And
you're not going to have a sheriff's department without the deputies. The people could elect me tomorrow. If I don't have good, hardworking men and women to do the work at that department, you've got nothing. You have nothing. I think we understand the priority is where it needs to be, right? We got to take care of our people, do the right thing, and work on figuring out the mental health crisis in the jail, right? We got to work on getting the deputies a better quality of life, and we're going to do all of those things.
Yeah. So
we're going to do all of those things.
So is there support potentially from the state for people that have, just flat out mental issues? Maybe they need to have a different area, or completely separate, maybe from the jail that has.
That's a great question. I was talking
secure
about
situation.
The money that was spent to ship out all those inmates to what was it, Irwin? That was a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of money. They could have. I mean, I'm not in construction, but let's just say it was, $15 million, $18 million. I've heard so many numbers thrown around. What I should do is file an open records request and get the exact number so we can speak from fact. Okay, so regardless of what the number is, I agree. Couldn't they have put that money? There's a building next to the police department down. It's in a cul-de-sac. I think it used to be the old YDC. It's a storage room right now. They could have taken that money I mean, that's a lot of money, you know what I'm saying, to fix up a building and maybe look at hiring a medical staff. I mean, I don't know. These are all things that I am
Yeah.
active in the process of
Right.
trying to figure out. And as the
Yeah.
campaign progresses, I will be able to give more and more details of the plans of what's going on.
Yeah. If we're truly serious about, because I've heard this mentioned even at, schools and different places, if we're really serious about mental health, then why ship that and why punt, like you said, if there's a way to see that person on through that may need that support, and see what's happening is you're getting real hardened criminals getting mixed in, with that mix. And, we don't need people that have mental problems mixed in with hardened criminals, and
I
they're
agree.
getting some kind of punishment when they really need some type of therapy or something along that line.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is something, because you don't even barely hear about mental hospitals anymore. I mean, I used to hear about them all the time
I don't think
when
we
I
have
when I
one.
was growing up.
I don't
You
want,
know,
yeah, I don't think there is one anymore in Gwinnett. I'll have to double check, but I don't
yeah,
think there's a place for them. I don't think there's a place for citizens to go that are suffering from mental health issues. Like, you know, that's something I think I'm actually going to look into
yeah.
to
So
get.
here again, another agency for social working and stuff, working in conjunction, instead of integrating, like I've heard in some agencies, social work into law enforcement. Is not the same thing. If a kid or something has got to the point to where he or she is arrested, maybe the social programs have missed its calling, because now you've landed, in jail. And I'm not saying that somebody with a mental problem don't need the help at that point, but it sounds like, a lot of, just like this district attorney. And I got a cold open I'm gonna play before I got some more comments about what's going on over there at that
Yeah,
office.
or lack of what's going on.
Yeah, lack of what's going on. It's like she ran on a campaign to prosecute based on equity or something. Like, look, you supposed to be working for the people to try to keep them safe. The sheriffs and whoever else, the deputies or the police, have arrested people that have been caught committing crimes and everything, and you're running down here to see how you can get them a second chance. You need to go into social work, because this is law enforcement. It's a part of society, but it's not the same thing. It's two separate things for a reason. It's just like with kids, your mama's a social worker. By the time it gets to dad and you still cutting up, it's you real close to getting some action of some kind, even if it's
If you
getting
grew up in my
grounded.
household, yeah, my parents,
Yeah,
I'll be 44 years old. My father still doesn't play games. I promise you.
yeah. You never stop being a parent. That's one thing I learned.
Politics and law enforcement.
No room for it.
No room
We
for
we we,
politics and law.
we got to get rid of it. So let me find another question, and I'm gonna try to tee up the next cold open for you to take a look at, and then we'll talk about that, and we'll try to move to wrap things up here in a minute. Let's see. I guess me always see. Man, there's so many people commenting on here. Oh, this is a good one from Nina Anderson. She said, "Will you punish your employees for holding you accountable?" That's a good question.
That's a good question. No. Let me say something. When you make it to the top, right? It's hard for. Well, I should say it's not hard, right? You should take criticism and stay humble, and you should surround yourself with people that will hold you accountable, keep you humble, right, and keep you grounded. Um, I think it's very, very important to listen to everyone in your organization, from the lowest deputy to your most confidential advisor, right? I find it really difficult to understand that you're going to punish somebody because they have moved on and they don't want to, support you anymore. You would think that our leader, right? At least that's how I was groomed to be a leader. Is you go to that person, you say, "Hey, where have I failed you? What have I?" Because I'm doing a great job. There's no reason. I don't need to have a, you know what I'm saying? I don't need to tell people don't say nothing to nobody because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm taking care of the people. I'm doing a good job. I'm taking care of the citizens. Crime's down. Everything's great. I don't need to threaten people. But if I offend somebody or I don't, because nobody likes everybody, I guarantee you I'm going to come to you and be like, "Hey, Antonio, where did I fail you, man? What's up? You're out seeking endorsement so and so. Is there a policy or procedure that you want to see done? What have I done to make your life that bad? I guess where you want to. Why I'll be the sheriff is because the citizens think that I'm going to do a good enough job that they vote me in office, and if I'm not doing that job, then I get voted out of office. That's a fantastic way to look at it. I don't know why the police chiefs aren't like that. They get appointed by these political people, and now they're stuck. They can't do. You think the chiefs of police could do their job effectively? Do you think J.D. McClure could do his job? I don't think so, because the moment he steps out of line or says something that the commissioners don't like,
he's out of there.
That's got to be the worst job on the planet, to try to take care of your own people.
Yep.
Please politicians.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you do your job? Like,
that's a lot of pressure.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure. And I know that's not going to make a lot of people happy to hear me say that. But you know what? That should give you the encouragement to sit down at the table and let's have a dialogue, right? I'd love to talk to the commissioners, the city managers, the county administrator, because we are the elected officials that the citizens have said, "Hey, look, we think you guys are the best." We have to agree. We have to sit down and be able to compromise with each other. It's imperative.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Joe, is you're offering any commissioner or any other public official to come live on the War Room and have a conversation about what needs to be done for the people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I would love to do that. I will talk to anybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent. I would like to talk to anybody that wants to opine or give me questions or whatever. I'm not hiding from anything. I promise you, these people, my supporters, the people that have helped me out go through this, I've been vetted more in the last 12 months. I've had more people in my credit, in my background, in my history, trying to see where I'm exposed or weak. But you know what, dude? At the end of the day, like, I'm a regular person like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I've missed payments on my credit cards. They ain't
try to come after your presidential records, did they?
I mean, look, I'm a normal dude, man. But I can tell you what, my integrity will not be compromised. You know what I'm saying? And I will do the right thing. I will do what's right for the citizens of this county and the men and women of the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Department. And who likes it, likes it. Who doesn't, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Plain and simple.
For those just tuning in, we're talking with Joe Mark. He's running for sheriff of Gwinnett County, just giving us his insights of who he is, what he's about, and what he's going to do if elected. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. So, Joe, I'm gonna pull up this. I got another cold open. So I don't know if you need to hit mute over there or whatever, but let me pull up this cold open because I really want you to see this, and we'll have a commentary on this. Hold on a second.
Exclusive. A large number of murder trials are ending in not guilty verdicts in Gwinnett County. And that's upsetting a lot of people. In Gwinnett County last year, the DA got murder convictions 57% of the time. For some perspective, at least 87% of murder cases ended in conviction in DeKalb, Fulton, and Cobb counties.
I started looking into this when people involved in some of these murder cases, including family members of some of the victims, were raising concerns with how many murder acquittals were happening right here in court. The Gwinnett County DA's office says it's not a failing what's happening here. She says that jurors here are more skeptical of police and prosecutors.
It was the most devastating day of our life.
The murder of Derek and Josh Dennis in Norcross in 2019 was painful enough for their family. Then last year, a jury found the defendant, Carlton Sermons, not guilty for their murder after police found him with the murder weapon. This relative doesn't want to be identified, but says she raised concerns with how the case was prosecuted by an assistant DA.
So she came in and didn't know anything for a case that happens in a couple of months.
In Gwinnett County, murder suspects are more likely to be acquitted than in any other large neighboring county in metro Atlanta. That's according to last year's data I uncovered that shows 8 people were acquitted for murder in Gwinnett County in 21 murder trials. The DA's office secured 12 convictions for a conviction rate of 57%. In DeKalb, Fulton, and Cobb counties last year, between 87 and 100% of murder cases ended in a conviction. In 2019, pre-COVID, records showed that the county's DA's office prosecuted 9 murder cases, ending with 3 acquittals. Voters elected Austin Gatson in 2020 based on a campaign promising reforms that she says she is delivering.
We had 18 young people that had their first brush with the law that are now having a second chance.
I think that the people that were let go when the new administration came in had a lot more jury trial experience than a lot of the folks that were hired.
It feels like we have a system that fails us.
Now, the DA says she's investing in more forensic equipment that'll help get better pictures at crime scenes because she says jurors are demanding more. She also says she didn't run on convictions. She says she ran to, quote, bring justice, equity, and fairness to the situation.
There you have it. And that's what, that's what's going on in the
Has she
district.
ever tried a case in court? Do you know? Does anybody know?
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like based on what the reports are saying that, I mean, she just said it right there. Where her focus is, you looking to prosecute them or you looking to get them a get out of jail free card. I mean,
Okay.
You know what I mean? What are your thoughts, man? So
All right, so 100%. This is going to be. I may not make a lot of people happy about this, but again, it's my honest opinion. On the other hand, I do believe very, very wholeheartedly that we have to do something with the youth, right? If we, like back in the day, right? If I had a problem with somebody, we used to throw hands. We used to fight, plain and simple. You got a problem with a buddy, you try to work it out, you fist fight, shake hands, you're going down the road. You do something like that now, bro, forget about it. You're done. Lives, right? You can't charge, well, you can. It's got to be a case by case, right? But what I should say is that they should have an opportunity to redeem themselves. There's a lot of kids that are wrapped up in stuff that are good kids, and they've got negative influences around them, right? Maybe, mom and dad are working a lot, or maybe it's a single parent household. Mom or dad's working all the time. The kids are by themselves. They're going to fall victim to, there's no place for the kids to go. This county has no positive, safe spaces for kids to go and do stuff. There's
question. Gwinnett has plenty of places, to go and a lot to do in a lot of parks. So, here's my thing with it. By the time they get apprehended or whatever, they have kids now, because which way you're gonna go kind of is determined in those set of years in school, and that's why it's so important that we probably are a lot more stricter in school, because it's just like with a child. Would you rather deal with them when they're small, because if you're having to discipline a kid when they're like, 14 years old, as opposed to getting on them when they're small, that whole scenario is different because of the impact. Now you impacting so many more people. You know what I mean? So the law enforcement, the sheriff, in my view, is the third opportunity. So if they've gotten to you, and that's where, I would say working with, and that's the problem I got with the district attorney's office. This is stop number 3. The parents need to be warned, and they need to be warning the kids. But if the kids feel like they got a chance all the way down at the courthouse, guess where they're going to end up? My pastor preached a sermon a week ago. I wish I had the clip. He said, we're all guilty of this. If the speed limit says 70 miles an hour, what do? We drive 75. And we say, well, if I do 76, I'm probably okay with that. And he said, if the speed limit says 80, guess what we do? We do 85. So that part is in us. So with kids, it'll be a good idea to be a couple of steps ahead. And that last warning should come from the school system, because let's say mom is strung out or something, they kind of missed the thing. Okay. My mom, I was a single mom or whatever. She wasn't on any substance abuse or anything else like that. But, I had my coaches and stuff that stood in that gap. So this is why the school system is so important, to give them different tiers and steps. Hey, if you do this is what you're going to end up second. And then third, now, if you end up down here in the sheriff's office, they're not going to have that much amnesty for you. If a kid knows that, that's no different than the natural laws we have. And you won't see too many people taking the chance of jumping off the roof. They already know that the leg probably going to break or something like that. So we don't need people to get down or think they can get down to the sheriff's office and have all these chances or whatever. And I'm not saying everybody need to be burned at the stake that show up, but they probably sure as heck need to believe it. Because if not, they're going to go 5 or 6 miles over the line in the speed limit every single time. It's human nature.
I think everything you said is 100% right. That really it puts it into perspective. I know, honestly, it's making me think now, because the whole time up until this second, I'm thinking to myself, oh God, man, you got these kids, they're out running around, with pistols and stuff, you get caught and your life is ruined. And I was like, well, is it really that serious that anybody get hurt? Now you got me thinking, honestly, think about it. You get caught with a pistol, 17 years. I mean, that's insanity. I mean, you're 100% right. But
this ain't your first romance with doing something like that either.
I guess, there's a thought, if they really believe that, hey, look, if I get caught with this pistol, let's just say that they thought they were going to get their hand cut off or something. That's a very good point. If everybody thought, hey, if I get caught with a gun underage, I'm going to lose my left hand or my right hand, how many kids you think running around with guns they would? I mean, that's a good point. I guess we'd have to sit down. I'm going to have to sit down with my team. I'd love to sit down with the investigative service, the DA investigator's office, and the solicitor. I mean, this is a conversation we really should be having collectively, because, we need to bounce ideas like this off of each other and really address this problem, because the gang violence in this county is out of control. Yeah. The shootings are out of control. Yeah. And from what I understand, it's coming from the schools, and it's coming from the kids, the underage kids, because the adults are negatively influenced. They're saying they're putting the gun in the kid's hand. They're making it enticing to run around. And so it's a serious problem.
Yeah. The parents is going to show up and defend them. So the fight is on a couple of fronts. Yeah. You're going to have some parents that you need to send a message to, and the parents and the kids going to have to send a message to them. And, if we're going to really operate in the sphere of law and order, we're just actually drawing the line. And it's the parent's job to keep the child away from that line. But if we keep moving the line, it's just like the speeding my pastor talked about. Oh, we're going to do 86 miles an hour because we're at risk. Because once somebody loses a life or gets shot or somebody or is disabled, you can't take that back. There's no restoration for that. And these kids need to understand that. You know, he's like, hey, you come down this way, you know, and it's just like a father almost. And like with my kids, there's a point, you know, that of lines that they know not to cross. But it's because I care about them that I do it. It's because I love them, you know, and that's the part that's hard.
Would you be open to a policy that, because one of the things I've been kicking around, an idea, and I'd like to ask you maybe, would you be open to maybe looking at, now obviously they're going to have to pay for their crimes, right? But maybe putting them through a program that's supported with the sheriff's department and the DA's office and the business leaders of the community, right? To give kids another opportunity other than going back to doing what they were doing. They're still going to have to pay for what they've done, 100%.
Yeah.
But what do you think about maybe looking at a program that would give them a real second start? You say you pay your penance to society, you keep your nose clean for 2 years or whatever, right? And at the end of that time, you're going to go through like a extracurricular. You're going to learn something, learn a trade. You know, they're dying for HVAC mechanics. There's a whole
even in my line of business, lawn maintenance and landscaping, and it's plenty of money in it.
You pick up a skill set, you learn something, you got something, and now we take a look at your record and maybe, you know, expunge something or seal something or whatever to give them a fresh start. But in life, like I tell my kids, choices and consequences.
Yes.
Right.
Now I'm all for that because, you know, the Bible tells us we are to forgive, and God forgives us for our sins. But that's where the conversation, I guess, will come in at what's going to be the different lines. Okay, if you go across this line, then, you know, you're going to pay consequences. You're going to pay something, you know, regardless. But that's what you guys will have to decide as far as the policymakers, you know, what is conducive, because we really want to see you turn around. You know, we really want to see you successful, you know, but we will not allow A, B, and C. You know, you have a choice to make. And that's the freedom that you have. It's a blessing that it's your choice to make and not ours, because you have your own mind and you can be somewhat bit of control of your own destiny. You got a choice to make. So which one is it going to be? Is it going to be option A or B? If you hit B and you got to end up down here in my office after we done had this conversation, you know, you're going to take me for a joke the more I lose that line. And who else is going to go in danger because of that? Oh, yeah, they're going to let me off down here. Oh, it's just a gun. It's just a bag of weed. It's just this. It's just that. You know, I just broke in this car a couple of times. You know, what's the ramification? I had a guy around the corner from me. His car got broken into one time. He packed up all his stuff. The next opportunity, he's a contractor. He did an amazing amount of work to this home, beautified it, built onto it, painted it, put this, I don't know how much money he spent on his fence. He packed up and left. That one theft, we lost a good neighbor.
So it's funny you said that, because I've been in meetings too with a lot of the owners in the Asian community of their businesses, and they're tired of becoming victims of crime. And some of these individuals that I've had meetings with, they own 15, 16, 17, 18 different gas stations in conjunction with other businesses and stores. And I had one gentleman tell me, now, if this guy decided to do what he said he was going to do, the amount of jobs that he would leave, that would leave the county, and the amount of vacant buildings that there would be here would be noticeable in all areas. Norcross, no matter where you're at, he's got a store in your neighborhood, I promise you. And he told me straight up, he says, I'm over it. And if this election, he said, we don't have change and this crime doesn't start getting under control, he says he's going to realistically look at closing his businesses and leaving the county of Gwinnett. Now, that's a problem that the commissioners, money. I mean, these people aren't playing around.
Yeah.
They're not playing around.
They're not. And see, the commissioner, that go back to them hard decisions again. They're going to have to make a decision. And you know, I was privy to some information from somebody who kind of knows what's going on and is a commissioner. I heard that a commissioner was supposed to vote one way, but because you know his higher ups or whoever was pressuring him and doing all this, look, dude, if you ain't got the stones, then he need to give the seat up, because those are the times that can make and break different scenarios. You know, these folks that's coming in here building this stuff, they ain't here to make money. And yeah, they do some great things sometimes, but they are not for the citizens of Gwinnett. You are there to represent us. You know what I'm saying? So when that decision comes, that hard decision, you might have to go against your caucus and be like, look, nah, we're not doing that. I know what the people want, and that's not it. We're not going to sit down here and splice up and make money deals or whatever and throw the people out the window. We work for them. So we got to come up with some different, you know. But Joe, is it something else for those who might have just tuned in? We got Joe Mark. He's running for sheriff in Gwinnett County. You know, been a pleasure having him on the broadcast today. Joe, if you, well, let's tell the people why they should vote for you, you know, and then after that, tell the people how to follow you, where to go to contribute to your campaign, and if they have more.
I'm in, right? Come talk to me. I want to hear from you, right? I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear your grievances. I'm not part of the good old boy club. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in a position. I'm not running for sheriff because I feel like I'm entitled to. Maybe I've tried it once or twice and I haven't been elected, or maybe I did 30 years in the county and, you know, it's a good place for me to retire. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because my neighbors, my friends, my family, they're all being affected. And I'm in a unique position to where I can come in truly unbiased, make the necessary changes that need to be made, and then put a legacy in place, right, for the next generation to come in. Instead of me getting in office and dying in office for the next 20 years, nah, man, I'm already 40-something years old. I need to do, 2 terms, maybe 3. But by then, I should already have been looking at grooming the next generation and say, hey, I think you might be a good sheriff one day. Let me bring you up and put you, you know what I'm saying? Or the same for the command staff, right? When you have a commander of the jail, commander of this division, they need to be looking down the line at the next leader so we can get out of the way and let the young blood come in and take over for us. That's why you should vote for me, because I'm going to be transparent, accountable for my actions, and approachable. I'm not going to be locked away in a tower. You don't have to, avoid eye contact with me in the hallway. I don't care. Talk to me. Hey, how you doing today, Deputy So-and-so? Hey, Sheriff, how you doing? I mean, this is not rocket science, folks. It's not rocket science. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you, look, I don't know the answer. But that's what my staff is for. That's my responsibility, to put professionals in place that are respected by their peers, right? Leadership is important. You have to be respected by the people underneath you for you to be an effective leader, right? So you got to have the knowledge and the respect. You got to earn your position and then move on. Plain and simple. That's why you should vote for me, because, look, I'm not going to die in office. 2 terms, 3 maybe, I'm gone. I want to go back and sit by the pool in the summertime like I've been. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just upset that the county has turned the way it has, and I'm in a unique position, and I'm going to capitalize on that. No pun intended. I mean, I'm gonna do what I can to get in there. Hell, I may get in there and people don't. I may ruffle so many feathers that I don't know. Maybe I only do 1 term, but I can tell you what, those decisions will be in the best interest of the citizens of this county. I promise you that.
We'll take that 1 term that's going against the grain to make things right. There it is. So Joe, tell us tell the people where to go to, send you some money for your campaign and
if you like what I'm about and what I'm talking about and the changes that I'd like to make, I would very, very appreciate your support. You can go to my website, joemarkforsheriff.com, www.joemarkforsheriff.com. Make a campaign contribution if you can. If you'd like to come and maybe make some phone calls or help put out yard signs or organize a fundraiser, the money is important because I have bills I got to pay, but that doesn't get you elected, right? I got to get out in the community and talk to people. Votes is what gets people elected. So, I got bills I have to pay, unfortunately. It's awkward. I've never had to ask for money before, but I need your help. If you like what I'm saying and you believe that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, please go to my website and donate. I have a lot of good people that have fronted signs and information and helped me out that, we need to take care of these people.
We appreciate it, Joe. That's Joe Mark for Sheriff for Gwinnett County. Hang on a minute, Joe.
Yes, sir.
All right. There it is, folks. Joe Mark for Sheriff, Gwinnett County. If you like what he said, make sure you log on, support his campaign. Like, share, and subscribe. We are the voice for the people.
Hit me up. Ask me questions. I won't run from them. I promise you.
War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice, keeping you informed. War Room, Gwinnett County, the people's voice.